Thank you guys so much for joining us today. My name is Stephanie Lucas. I'm the founder and CEO of the Annuity Consultants. We're so glad you've joined us for this heart-centered planning webinar series. Today's topic is the importance of being grounded. So this is one of 8 webinars that we'll be hosting over the next 6 months. So hopefully you guys will keep coming back and you'll share with your friends and colleagues, and hopefully we can get a good following on this, because this is an important topic for us to be covering, especially right now with what's going on in society. And I love the fact that we're bringing this to the insurance and financial space, so super excited about that. So the topic, like I said, is the importance of being grounded, and a little bit of background on the heart-centered planning series is it's really about connecting with your clients at a soul level and giving them unbiased recommendations, just really based on their needs and desires. And so it's about nothing more than really truly helping people. So a couple of things before we get started. Housekeeping. Hopefully everybody can hear us now, and we are really good to go. But if you guys have questions, which hopefully you'll have a lot of questions for us, please type them into the chat box. You'll want to select send to all, or if you'd rather it be private, definitely feel free to select private. And will be approximately 45 minutes for the presentation, and about 15 minutes of Q&A at the end. And really how we're going to structure this is go through a interview style. So I'm like a journalist, and Hass is going to be interviewed by me. And now a little bit about the speaker. He's amazing, by the way. And I hope Sadeghi, did I say it right?
Sadeghi, it's okay.
Sadeghi. All right. I knew I was going to kill that, and I was going to ask you before we got started, but with our technical issues, that didn't quite work out. So thank you.
Okay.
So we're so thrilled to introduce you. Hass guides leaders, visionaries, teams through transformation, shows them how to reconnect with their full power and create from a clarified vision. He utilizes his experience in business, law, dispute resolution, organizational and technical skills, and infuses it with rational, creative, and healing strength to function as a transformative healer at Quantum Guide and a team facilitator at Relational Alchemist. He is passionate about identifying the rational roots of personal, team dynamic, and business system problems by harnessing the power of communication to empower transformative growth and healing. So we actually met outside of a charity event about 6 years ago. And we've been connected since then, but recently with everything that's been happening with the pandemic, I started seeing a lot of really great stuff that he had been posting, and he started this gratitude circle, which by the way I missed. I'd really like to be there again soon, or gratitude gathering, which is a really great thing that was brought to the community, and he started promoting it on LinkedIn, and he had people from all over the world that would join us. And so he's been bringing a lot of healing energy to the people that need it and to the world, which is incredible. So thank you for that. And last, he is based out of Los Angeles, so this is a little bit early for him, but we thank you for being ready and so perky to join us today. So hello.
It's good to be here. It's good to be here. Yeah, I love you guys so much that I'm doing it during my morning ritual when I do my meditation, which is one of your questions. So when I do my meditation and stuff, so I had to do a really quick grounding, and here we are.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing that. I did it quite a few times actually this morning because I was nervous about getting on here. So especially since it's our first one, I wanted to make sure that it went perfect. And you know, when you try to do everything perfect, things tend to kind of go wrong. So it's pretty cool. Are we recording, by the way? Okay, great. Okay, so I guess without further ado, we'll get into what we've got for you guys. First, I want to really define what grounding means to us and what we're doing here, because there are a lot of definitions out there. And one thing I thought about when we were creating this is, it's not being grounded like when you were a kid. But when you think about it, your parents sent you to your room and took everything away from you and made you sit with yourself and think about what you did. So, I mean, that really is getting grounded, right? But for our purposes here, it means to be present in your body and connect with the earth. When you're grounded, you allow yourself to feel centered and balanced no matter what's going on around you. And if you're grounded, or if you're not grounded, you're like a leaf in the wind, very vulnerable and thrown off balance very quickly. So for what we're doing here, that's our definition. And yeah, so my first question for you, Hass, is if you would share a brief history of your life in corporate America before you really found this way of being, before you learned how to get grounded. We'd love to hear that story.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, and I like your definition there. Before we dive into that, I remember this quote by, I think it was Lao Tzu or Confucius. It's an ancient Chinese quote, that a wise man lives or has his mind or her mind in the feet. And that, for me, exemplifies grounding, really being rooted or, planted to the earth. My background, I think when we met each other, I was still practicing law full time. So I started originally, I wanted to be a doctor and I wanted to pursue either, healing or, my passions were intersects of healing and problem solving. So I went into business law, and as you may or may not know, I have my background in dispute resolution, so I was doing mediation as well. So for me, the corporate world, or the 9-to-5 realm that I was working in, I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that I wasn't grounded. I didn't know that I was eventually getting burnout and almost died. For me, having a sibling that passed away from burnout, who had also similar, really entrepreneurial hustle is what I'll call it. And we didn't know much about this kind of stuff back then as a society. So for me, I started doing business law. I was always working with either really potent leaders or really, conflicted teams. And I was working with either early stage startups, mid-growth companies, or companies that were flailing. So it was either there was a lot of pressure or there was a lot of toxicity. Both were not, good because it takes a toll on the health, and working in a high pressure environment, in high stakes, I was doing litigation and transactional. And so it's high stakes, high pressure. So I'm sure everybody in the audience, especially in the financial industry, especially, post 2016, there's been so much turbulence in the markets that everybody and every day has so much pressure and stress. So for me, that was what I was doing. And I was in a way infusing more of an integrative approach to it. So I had this undertone of mindfulness. I wasn't really grounded, which is the topic today, which I'll talk about later on as well. I wasn't what I would call grounded in myself. I wasn't really connected with myself. So it really took my burnout, my brother's passing, for me to wake up. And it was about 4 years ago now, which really prepared me for everything that's going on now. So that's a little bit of a blurb. I mean, it was really law, mediation, and working in that high-paced environment. And really being around this stuff, my oldest sibling has, been an influence, and I knew better. I didn't employ it because I didn't think it was as important as we know now scientifically it is.
Yeah, true. Gosh, well, you've gone through a lot to get here, and it's pretty amazing that unfortunately it takes, something very drastic or tragic to move us towards, finding our way, So I appreciate you sharing that and, getting vulnerable with us.
That's the name of the game. I'm going to change my middle name to Mr. Vulnerable eventually. So, my life has become one big expose.
Yes. Well, I fully support whatever it is that you decide to do. So tell me about your shift from the corporate world to a more heart-centered way of being in the business world.
Yeah, for me, grounding started with grounding in myself. Like I said earlier, I didn't really have fulfillment. I was doing a lot of community engagement. I was a civic leader. I had my practice. and I was doing well. It really took me a while to realize that for me, the shift was more of the tragedies that happened and the traumas that I experienced. There was this notion of, if we really talk about this as being grounded in my authentic self, it didn't start right away. I kicked and screamed. And so if anybody that's listening and they're going through this like high-paced environment and this is new topic to them, you got to be gentle on yourself. I wasn't. I kicked and screamed for a while. The first couple of years of my sabbatical, early 2016, when I found out I was ill and I had some life-threatening emergencies, that was one aspect of being grounded in my body so I could be functionally healthy and you know, in healing. The other aspect was I wasn't even grounded in who I am. So your analogy of being blown in a wind is very apt.
Yeah.
I didn't see that I wasn't really in alignment with my calling. Like I mentioned earlier, I was kind of practicing mindfulness and integrative modalities in my practice. I was coaching clients through conflict, for example. I wasn't in alignment. I wasn't really grounded in myself. So for me, it was the health emergency, my brother's passing first. And then what shifted it even more for me was realizing I'm not fulfilled. I'm not grounded in who I am and what I want to do, and what we would call the heart center, or really the true self, or, you know, you're in alignment when you're grounded. You're back. My definition of it, in a sense, is your energetic awareness. Your presence is back in the vessel, in the body, in the meat suit, as some of us call it. So
Sure.
I didn't have any of that. I didn't have any of that. So my transition was, once I had the tragedy, it was like rediscovering myself. And then that's when I started to lean into my heart, my intuition, my soul's calling, as we call it, all through the heart. You know, that's why I love the theme of what you've created here, is to be heart-centered. Is when you're grounded, you are heart-centered. So they're synonymous for me, in a sense.
Yeah, yeah. Really like finding your purpose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. So what does being grounded really mean to you?
Well, I mean, for me, at first, you hear this stuff, right? You hear mindfulness, you hear grounded, you hear these things, and then you go, okay, what does that mean? So what I wanted to do today is I wanted to kind of start with a preface of everything's energy, you know, and I cite Nikola Tesla's quote a lot, which is, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, you have to think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So because everything is energy, then we have to then look at the mindscape, the hardscape, and the bio, the meat, the vessel, all as energy. So this entire concept of what we're dealing with when we're grounded means we're grounded in the mind, we're grounded in the heart, and we're grounded in the body. We've brought all of our energy really back to ourselves. And then you have, you know, new neuroscience in like heart math, for example. And then we want to also define what flow means, right? Because when you're grounded, you can be in flow, or when you're heart centered, you're in flow. Well, that all means that your mind and your heart rhythm, your brain activity and your heart activity. So your heart has free waves that, you know, cardiologist measures, and then your brain has waves. And I know you, Steph, like this Joe Dispenza, and he spends a lot of time out there measuring brain activity and heart activity. And so when they're in alignment, you're in flow. You have to be grounded. Your energy has to be all back in order to be grounded and to be in flow state. So what I want to talk about today, and I'll pepper it in throughout the questions, is really this notion of when you're in groundedness, when you're back into your body, your energy's fully back, then a lot of what ends up happening is you get into high cognitive performance, your function is right, your wellness is right, and you're able to perform it at your top level. One of the things I forgot to mention is I was like starting to like flounder. You know, I was starting to get foggy, and I'm a very smart person. You know, people always compliment me on my brilliance, etc. So I was starting to suffer. I forget the emotional suffering. And so what we're talking about, when you're not grounded, especially nowadays, with so much change, with so much pressure, like we've talked about, you take these two and you then mix in this formula of not being grounded, not paying attention to your mind, heart, and body. It's a disastrous formula. So what it means for me to be grounded means to, again, really bring myself back. So one way they talk about it is centering, or to redirect your focus and energy and awareness back into the body. A lot of the times we're scattered. Our mind is either in the past or in the future. Our heart is with the person that left us earlier this morning, or is remembering this pain, or is nervous about this event. We're not really present, which is not exactly the same thing. When you're present and you're fully in your body, you're grounded. So that's a lot of that science thrown at the audience, because I know this is recorded, because I want them to be able to soak this in and get those downloads. So for me, it really means to boil it down, to redirect and bring my energetic awareness down into my body.
Wonderful. I love your answer. And I also love the fact that you kind of brought in the fact that, there is science to back what we're talking about. It's not just all this woo-woo new age stuff, right? There's real science backing it. And you mentioned Dr. Joe Dispenza. I absolutely loved him. In fact, I was introduced to him by an agent that I work with, Evan Flynn. And, it took me a while to, read the book that he recommended. But when I finally read it, it just it opened my mind to so much more. And more than anything, it made me realize how much power I have over my own body and my health, and suffering from some autoimmune issues myself. I realized that, the more I practice my mindfulness and the more I have my positive self-talk and all of the things that go along with what we're doing here through this series, I've become healthier and better in all ways, not just my body, but my mind and, my soul.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I commend you for that. It's important to note that you're a walking example. I mean, I teach this now. It's become kind of my 9 to 5. I was kind of like a guinea pig, and it is all science backed. And that's why I commend you, because for people that are skeptical, reach out and do the research, or I can give you the research. And I had an engineering background. I studied, at a top institute in the nation, and I trained with people that were both on the, right hemisphere side, on the spiritual, mystical, metaphysical, and on the hardcore research side. My eldest sibling's a physician. The brother that passed was a physician. So I've been around the science, the neurocardiology, the biology of it. It's all catching up. I've had an opportunity to be around some of these luminaries. And that's why I commend you, Steph, because you were a skeptic and I was kind of a skeptic because I was influenced by the family. So the fact that you were a skeptic and you chose to still undergo it, I commend you, because that's how most people are. So I think if anybody that's listening, take a page out of Steph's book, because you then took it, you slowed down, and that's in your guide that you're going to send everybody, that you slowed down, you started to find your natural rhythm, and you started to find yourself and ground in your true self. And that's what all of this got birthed by. And that's what everybody in the audience can take a page out of that book,
Thank you. I appreciate that. And also, it's not easy. It was real hard. There was a lot of tears and a lot of, sleepless nights. And there were lots of times I wanted to give up and just go back to, hiding, really, and staying in my darkness. But I was like, no, I got glimpses of it, like little bits and pieces, and it felt so good. And, so I was like, no, you got to keep going. And it's a lifelong journey. It doesn't end, right? So there's always things to uncover.
It's that quote, right? You have to have a breakdown before you have a breakthrough. And I know this isn't a healing format or topic we're talking about. It does, and you mentioned that. It does correlate, because healing's automatic, as you've mentioned in that book. And can we say the title of the book? Is because you mentioned his book. Can we say the title? Because I think, so it's How to Be Supernatural, the book that Stephani was talking about, by Joe Dispenza. Check it out. Chock full of gold.
Yes, such good stuff. The stuff he talks about being heart-centered too, I was like, oh my God, this is so good. So anyway, next question, because I could just talk about this forever. So how did you bridge the gap between the corporate structure and heart-centered way of being? Maybe share an example of how you did this in business.
So I gotta say, it's not easy, as you said, and I had to create, there's this game when we were all kids. You had the little blocks with the triangle and the square, and you had to put the peg in the appropriate shape. there is no, at least when I started to do this journey, it wasn't as embraced. It was still kind of fringe, and the landscape of the environment of the world, the transformative shifts we're all going to, plus the World Health Organization only embraced burnout, and then this concept of energy people started to listen to, and then grounding falls under that, right? Energy, mindfulness, all that presence. So I will say it's not going to be easy to bridge the proverbial gap. I see it as right now the problem we're having because of low employee engagement, turnover, burnout, a lot of the wellness issues and the costs is because there's the corporate structure is still behind. So I feel like as whoever's listening here, if you can adapt and that's what I did. I adapted my practice. I created a new box, right? There wasn't once. I created like a new little squiggly shape for my little peg to go into, because I believe right now that there's a existential crisis going on. Most corporate America is looking at itself going, okay, what do we do?
Right.
Because we have all these problems, and they're doing simple fixes. The leaders themselves are not being grounded, and they want their employees to be grounded.
Right.
And as anybody who's seasoned in the consulting space will tell you, and I take a more, I guess you could call it energetic or metaphysical perspective on it, organizationally, it's the same thing. The energy of the leader shapes the culture. So leaders are not grounded. I used to do this stuff and I wasn't grounded, as I said, in my authentic self. So I've solved multi-million-dollar conflicts by doing weird stuff like checking in what we would call EQ, or doing different types of like meditative. Is it my microphone?
No, keep going.
Oh, okay. So different types of meditative practices I used to employ. The thing was, it wasn't embraced by corporate America. So some people that are listening may not do it because you may become an outsider for a second. And I think that's important to remember. The gap is being bridged now. I don't think it has been bridged completely. So how I did it is I became a pioneer and I became a change maker, and I created a new industry for myself. I mean, there was this understanding of corporate shamanism and corporate healing and business healing. It wasn't really embraced. So what I did is I said, okay, to F with it, and I smushed them together, and I started to bring grounding principles to my business practice. In other words, I grounded in who I was, and I said, I'm going to shape it this way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I mean, and really to become a change maker, you have to change the way things are. You can't keep going, and expect things to change and stay the same, right? Like,
the only constant in life is change. Beautifully said, Stephanie. Yeah, you got to shift. Yeah, you got to be fluid.
Yes. All right. So what was the number one challenge, like changing from the corporate paradigm to this heart-centered way of being? Like, really, what'd you experience?
Yeah, my old ways coming back, because I was so used to this striving, doing culture, this hustle mode, which really fried my circuits and was part of perpetuating me not being grounded in the first place. I really found myself, and this was up until recently, because I was kind of in this like isolated process up until a year and a half ago, where I was kind of more in hermit mode, really healing, practicing really intense principles, which we can talk about later as far as how I employ this in my day-to-day. And I found myself that really quickly I got back into what we would call our old ways, our old tendencies, the doing mode. And what you say, like for instance, in your guide about grounding, you need to pause, slow down. Multitasking is not your friend, for instance. And you need to really kind of catch yourself, because it's a regrooving process. Because if all of your life and professional career you've been ungrounded, and then all of a sudden you're going to want to be grounded, and then you get back out there, right? And you recalibrate and you get back out there, or you launch your new product, there may be a tendency at first to be like, ooh, I kind of, maybe I should use a little bit of my old way of being, because it got me to where I am today. And, as they say, what got you here won't get you there. So I would say that was for me the biggest challenge, is to catch my old ways and my old tendencies of striving or doing. Because groundedness starts with being still, being present.
Yeah.
And that's counterintuitive to Western society's definition of business success. And that, I'm here to challenge you and tell you that the science is starting to show us now, because your cognitive function, the more you do, goes down. your function when you're out of your body. I mean, Steph was talking about wellness and health. You know, then you have stress accumulates, and because becomes dis-ease. So you know, your performance, your function, your wellness all take a hit and eventually go in the tank. And so if you don't catch it, and then when you shift into it, that was for me the biggest challenge. Once you're in groundedness, to make sure you don't go back to ungroundedness.
Yeah.
When you're starting to do, you can, you know, that analogy of the leaf in the wind, you can start to pick yourself back up off of that and uproot yourself again.
Right, right. Well, and it's like building a muscle, you know, the repetition is needed in order for it to become habitual.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, very much. You have to practice, practice, practice. And the work that I do, that's why I get sustainable results and impact for the people that are ready to do this level of work. It's because it's practice. It's the line in the sand has been drawn over and over again. You've been ungrounded for how long? You've been in perpetual mind mode for how long? And then all of a sudden you want to come and say, okay, 1 week I'm going to be grounded and then I'm good to go. You got to keep practicing that.
Yeah. It's really a commitment to greatness.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So how has this pandemic changed the way you operate in the world, and more specifically in business?
You know, I wish I had a very nice answer for everybody listening, and I could say something along the lines of like, you know, it changed my life. It didn't. I was ready for this. I was, you know, an anomaly. I'm the crash test dummy for God in a sense, because everybody's in isolation. And I said this before in another interview with another colleague that I did. And I said, this was par for the course for me. I've been in it for 2 years, from 2017 to 2018, 19. I was isolated, alone, in self-imposed isolation, working on myself, healing, practicing these techniques, training, etc. And so then here this thing comes along and everybody's isolated, working in a virtual environment, and is in a constant state of flux, or this dark night of the soul. And I'm like, oh, okay. So all of a sudden my market like opened up. My market, you know, my proverbial business market opened up, because now I go, oh wow, 7 billion people became ready for consciousness work. Great.
Right.
So I would say for me, how it changed the way I operate in the world, it showed me that I was ready to get out there and to teach these things even more, because I didn't still ground fully in myself until late last year, and saying, is the world ready for this? And that's grounded in confidence, right? And that's like another aspect of being grounded, that you don't let the environment shift you, right? You stay grounded, and no, I'm going to do this. So if anything, it further grounded me in my confidence that this is the right time to do this work. That if you take these methods, you employ them, and you figure out a way, you don't have to rebrand your business. You figure out a way to employ this as a practitioner, as an entrepreneur, as a service provider, as a consultant, what have you, you will see results in your business practice. So you don't have to go all the way like we did, you and I did. You can simply say, oh, these are cool techniques that are going to make me a better person and a better business person.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I've worked remotely like 15 years from anywhere I've been in the world, right? And I've been doing this work for at least 4 years straight. I started dabbling in it about 7 years ago, but like really the last 4 years has been like really deep work. And so when this all happened, I was like, oh, I can't go to the gym. Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to figure out how to work out at home, you know? So I was ready for it. And we also started this series the month before it happened, which was like, obviously we were in alignment with what we were supposed to be doing, right? So
very much. And that's what the gratitude gathering thing that you mentioned, which is kind of the meditation visualization thing that I was inspired to do, was similar to you. Is right before this hit, and I was in a meditation, and I got the idea or the insight, right?
Yeah.
And which is one of the benefits of doing this stuff. You then access greater realms of wisdom and creativity. And then it's become a vehicle, because I didn't know how much it's needed, even for very seasoned practitioners that join us, like yourself. I didn't know how big of a support it was going to be. And now I'm taking it to the next level and really going to take it to a bigger platform so people can get the benefits of visualization, meditation, breath work, etc. And I agree with you. I think that when you're in flow, when you're grounded and you're centered, then you get these affirmations like you know, then you know, oh, I'm in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And that comes more readily.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So now that we're talking about that, what does your daily practice look like? For example, what structures do you have in place to stay centered and focused?
So one of the things that it wasn't annoying, I should have mentioned this in the last question, that it did change my life, was the fact that getting out into nature was a stymied a bit, especially in Los Angeles area, because for some strange reason, hiking trails and nature and places I used to go, like parks, and you know, I ride swings to meditate, etc. All these things got shut down. So the reason I mention this right now is because it was part of my regimen, and I forgot to mention earlier that nature gives off this frequency, and it's been measured, called the Schumann resonance. And that's the biofield, which is what you mentioned, Stephanie, earlier in your definition, which is this being grounded and really like understanding like, whoa, when I go stand barefoot on the earth,
Yes.
and stand on grass, and I simply, which we'll do an exercise later towards the end, I'll walk everybody through a quick exercise. I actually shift my energy because I'm connecting to a frequency, which, by the way, everybody, the Schumann or the biofield of the earth is at 3 point something. Your cell phone is at 10 or 12 or maybe even 20, and don't quote me on that, which means all of the electromagnetism and stuff we're bombarded with and where we're mentally active and all this is much higher than what your body's natural rhythm is supposed to be. So that's why simply standing on the grass barefoot regrooves you to a healthy rhythm or energy wavelength. So for me, what it looked like and what it looks like now is different, because when I was doing my training, it was intense. I didn't have a 9 to 5. I took a sabbatical. So now that I'm in this mode of working and being, which is the balance that we talk about, right? It's work-life balance is one analogy for it. Usually I've structured it in a way where I could do it in little morsels or like hacks. And a lot of what I teach now is energy hacks, to, you know, put a kitschy term to it. So I usually wake up, now a morning ritual, you know, Tony Robbins does something similar, Robin Sharma and his 5 a.m. club. There's a lot of thought leaders and consultants in the transformative space that talk about this. So having a ritual in the morning for me, which involves a lot of stuff. I mean, mine have like a ritual around it, and that's what I invite everybody to do, is make your routine, your grounding practice, your mindfulness practice, whatever you want to call it, your own. Go out there. If you don't know anything, reach out to somebody that does, learn from them, or read books and learn techniques, and then try it on and see what works for you, because one size does not fit all. You know, you have different strokes for different folks. Everybody has different personalities. So for me, it's meditation, visualization, because what the mind conceives, it becomes reality. So visualization, the power of imagination, it's huge. And when this isn't new for some people listening, especially if you're a type A, high performance, you know, they have it for golf, for example, or for sports. Body work, what that means is going to see either an acupuncturist, a masseuse, or doing it yourself, yoga, qigong, anything where you can start to then work with the muscular skeletal, the fascia system. For instance, I get craniosacral myofunctional work, which is all dealing with the fascia of the body, and I have a soul sister who does that. So that's not part of what I do for myself. I'm simply giving a multifaceted look of what kind of the things that I employ. Affirmations, journaling. Oh my God, like journaling is in and of itself, it can be done in many different ways. You can do a gratitude journal. You can do a contemplative journal. You can do a journal to release, you know, which you probably want to keep separate if it's all your garbage that you're releasing and you're processing from all your gratitude and all that nice stuff. And then lastly, energetic techniques. That's the fringe for some people listening. They may go, what does that mean? Qigong is one light dose. People may have heard of Tai Chi, Qigong, certain types of yogic practices. What I'm talking about is understanding your inner systems and being able to work those systems. So my regimen is morning, and then anytime I can, I go out. Usually I try to do it at least once every other day to the park and do some type of stuff outdoors as well. And I crunch it into morsels, morning, and then this outside activity if I can, and it's separate from working out. That's completely different. I also do that. This is, I'm talking my mindfulness, grounding, awareness, embodiment, whatever you want to call it, they all synonymous. that's kind of what it looks like. And I couched it, if that's okay, so that people would get an analogy of different ways and things that I do.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And, you know, I have my rituals too, and I like to hit the gym first to open up my airways. And then, you know, when I get back from that, that's when I go out and sit on the back patio, which I have a lot of nature in my yard here in Austin. So I get to be in nature very often, which is I'm super grateful for.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
And that's the key. And how does it make you feel? Question. How does it make you feel if you were to meditate indoors versus outdoors? Have you noticed the difference?
Huge difference, especially since you can like hear the birds and you can hear, you know, it's so much more, it's more expansive. It's just,
Right.
you know, there's a big difference. So
That's how I feel about it. Correct. Yeah.
it's beautiful. All right, so we're gonna try to get through these real quick because I know we have an exercise. Okay, so what's your vision and hope for fellow business owners and people in the insurance and financial industry?
You know, for me, two things. I guess you could say fulfillment, you know, being grounded in your real self. I would say A is follow your natural rhythm. Like get in tune with yourself, ground in yourself, and find your own, you know, that proverbial beat of your own inner drummer. And then two, that people start to monitor what I would call their battery levels.
Yeah.
And what that looks like is, you know, taking time for decompression, first tuning in, right? So remember, start redirecting your energetic awareness and focus to what's happening within you and coming back to yourself. Paying attention, am I all in my head? I mean, that's a huge thing for people because a lot of chronic dis-ease is because the energy, where you go, your mind goes, right? Your focus goes, your energy goes. So if you're constantly thinking, right? Matthew McConaughey, I know it's not a pleasant movie and this is a PG environment. Wolf of Wall Street, there's a scene where he's talking to Leonardo DiCaprio's character and he goes, there's a lot of above the head stuff in our industry, right? That's this analogy for what I'm talking about. What I call it is syncing your chi or your bioenergy, right? Chi is the Chinese word for your electromagnetic current that flows through your body. A lot of the time, especially for high functioning people, type A's like myself, and when you're really smart or you're in a service industry, you're in your head, which means your energy is all up here. Where are your organs? Over here. So when I say monitor your body, your battery level, my vision for that is that at a body level, they start to pay attention to where their energy is going. Because literally your energy, if it's housed up here and you're getting chronic migraines, I wonder why. If you're getting like autoimmune conditions or you're having problems in your kidney, well, what do? You're constantly eat. Where's your energy? Up here, not in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Being in tune with their hearts, not only their bodies and their minds, their hearts. So heart-centered means bringing your energy, your focus, your presence into your heart and making sure they get rid of or decompress. I lost a client. Are you still holding on to that energy? You know, are you still holding on to the energy of your first breakup? Are you still holding on to the emotions? So it's letting go of the mind, decompressing the mind, decompressing the heart, and decompressing the body, monitoring your body and your battery level, so to speak. That's a vision that I have in addition to being grounded in who they are in their natural rhythm. Because it's going to be, you're going to be out of the curve, I assure you. Even as much as people are, you know, Joe Dispenzas are out there and the WHO is now labeled burnout as of last year's thing. People, they're still late to the game. You know, I wish I could teach people the really advanced stuff that I learned. I can't. I have to start with basics right now because people don't have their breath proper. They don't have their circadian rhythm proper. They don't have their function, their energy flow proper, and that's a real thing. They're not able to focus or concentrate or hold their awareness, you know, basics, foundational skills.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for that. I mean, we're definitely in alignment. This is why I created this heart-centered planning series.
Yeah.
Like, man, I know that what we're talking about, it applies to anybody and everybody.
Yeah.
But our industry specifically, because they are so in their head and it's such an ego-driven, you know, masculine way of being, and it's go and do, and it's like, no, just slow down.
Correct.
And, you know, listen to yourself and allow your creativity to flow, and you will find ways to do more business in a manner that is so much easier. easier on your mind and your body.
That is a very great point. I'm glad you said that, because, and I know this is in alignment with this, and that's why I brought it up. People think, okay, I slowed down, hustle. I got to make money. The economy is tight right now, which means I got to hustle twice as hard. And wrong. In fact, the way that metaphysics, energy, and science is proving this now, folks, when you slow down what you do, and people that meditate, they see it as a slowing down of time, as Steph joked about when we started, time's an illusion. What happens is when you actually slow down, you optimize your state of being and your energetics and your cognitive function and your overall performance, which means you get more done. I'm going to put the metaphysics aside for a second. You do get more done, and that's being shown now scientifically. So go from go to slow is what I jokingly say, because you can't. It's not only are you going to kill yourself, or God forbid, or get burned out, it's not sustainable. And even more so, there's this quirky hypothesis or seed I want to plant in the audience right now, is that if you do this, you'll actually make more abundance for yourself, because you're more in tune and you're more intentional and you're more impactful, both energetically and physically.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I mean, it's been proven that multitasking does not actually get more done. The fact that you can be present and do one thing at a time, you're going to be a lot more productive.
Bingo.
And you get a higher quality of work out of that. So,
Bingo.
All right. So, what piece of advice can you share with others about the importance of being grounded? And we're going to talk about the meditation.
Yeah. So I instead of like really talking about it or giving the advice, so there's different things I call this, syncing your chi, and I have it on LinkedIn, which is what right now currently one of the main ways I put content out there, as well as my site and YouTube, or a waterfall exercise, whatever you want to call it. For right now, I'm calling it kind of like draining or waterfall visualization. So before I get started, I want to kind of explain, in terms of the answer to your question, the advice. There are components of what I would say are necessary for being grounded. And I'm going to put it in like a formulaic way right now. First, you want to center. Centering takes a conscious effort, a choice that I'm going to center. What it means is, step A, you want to redirect your focus and awareness within. And it's as simple as, for now, you can put your hand on your heart. The theme of today, you see it on the screen, heart-centered planning. So you want to center and arrive at your heart. So you want to literally, you can close your eyes or not. Step A is really to kind of come in, and we're not going to do it yet. Let me kind of explain, and then we'll do it all together, which is here with this little button, the little button on the screen, which is let's practice together. So there's this notion of, first you want to arrive, and physically it'll help to put your hand on your body. Why? Because for a lot of people out there, there may not be seasoned practitioners of mindfulness grounding. So it's like, well, how do I do this? When you actually touch your body, it helps your nervous system. And there's a lot of the science I'm leaving out for today, that you kind of like, oh, I'm here. And your mind goes, oh, I'm there, go there. So first, center and arrive. Kind of come back to your body, okay? Step 2, you want to employ visualization or imagination, okay? This is huge. You want to actually use, by closing your eyes, anything I describe, which literally, here's what we're going to do. You're going to go to the crown or the top of your head, and you're going to visualize like a valve opening, almost like a waterfall of white light coming. And then you want to, again, use the imagination, feel and sense it coming through your body. And as it drops down, your awareness drops down. So the step 2, when you use the visualization, is you want to kind of drain, which it goes to step 3, drain down to your feet. And then step 4, visualize 2 literally valves on the bottom of your feet draining down. Now, for extra credit, if you could do this outdoors, which we can't today because we're in front of computers, that's what you would ideally want to do this in, with barefoot on the grass, for example, in a park, your backyard, your front yard. And this literally, we're going to do it right now live. Won't take long. I'm going to exaggerate it for a minute or two for those in the audience, can get a midday boost if you're in the Central Eastern time, early morning boost if you're California, if you're overseas, then evening boost. My point being, I'll exaggerate. So what I'm going to invite everybody to do, what you're about to do, let's close our eyes, and I'm going to keep mine open, and really start with step A, which is this notion of putting your hand on your heart and choosing to kind of arrive and come into your body, centering, arriving, really taking a moment, right, to breathe, feeling your chest, really feeling your presence. Sometimes it helps, and I employ affirmations. I am grounding in my body. Don't simply say it, feel it. Feel your energy grounding. And again, if it helps to touch your chest, that's useful. And then coming back into the body for step A, really center and arrive. Then visualize going to the top of your head. It may help for those that are new. You can maybe touch the top of your head with your other hand, maybe tap it. And visualize your crown, the top of your head. Visualize like a valve opening. And say out loud or in your heart or head, again, affirmations help. I'm bringing in white light to cleanse me. And breathe it in and visualize it like a waterfall draining you. Feel it drain down your head, washing your head. Feel your energy. Maybe you're dropping your tension, your jaw is relaxing, your eyes and tension in your brow. Bring the water, visualize white light or waterfall, however it resonates. Bring it down to your shoulders, drop your shoulders into your torso. Bring it down even deeper still into your arms, into your body. Drop your hands from your heart to your stomach now. Feel all of this waterfall meeting in your stomach for a second, almost like a basin, like a little swimming pool or a basin. And then feel it draining out now through your feet. Maybe it's a light that you've been seeing. Feel it going down your feet. And then when you get to the soles of your feet, the next step is really to open the soles of your feet, again, like valves, and visualize it leaving any gunk. Maybe you have emotional stress. Maybe you have mind stress. Visualize it leaving, and you can start at the top again and come back down. You could do this as many times as you want. It helps to inhale and exhale slowly. And when you do that, I invite you to breathe into your diaphragm or push your stomach out, which we didn't really get into breathing tips. So that's the main one, is when you breathe, push your stomach out, inhale, exhale down, and drain out any stress. Maybe you see it as a black smoke or something like when you see gunk leaving you into the drain in the shower, maybe you see it and visualize it like that. That's basically it. Really, and then taking a moment to come back to the presence, opening your eyes, coming back to the room. Very simple. The thing is, people forget that subtlety has profound impact. That something as simple as choosing to center. I'm choosing to bring my awareness, redirect it within. I'm choosing to visualize and inhale this energy draining me and washing away, right? And opening the soles of my feet and draining out in nature, especially. You do this for as minimum as 5 to 10 minutes on a break. You do this enough, you'll start to enhance what's called your interoception, which is now this fancy word for your ability to sense and feel within your body. You do this enough times, you can actually start to feel, oh, this headache is actually this stress from this specific thought that I'm having. And you can then remove that through something as simple as this technique. So the more you do this, the more surgical you can actually become in fine-tuning your function, your performance, and your wellness.
That's awesome. Love it. I feel so much better. We should have started with that.
Well, I said, do we start with it and then we lose all the people that are like, wait, what are they doing? This is weird and I don't know what I'm doing. Or do we do it at the end?
I know. Well, at some point we won't care about that. But
yeah,
right now, at the beginning, we're like, we need to get people to get on board with this before we do that.
Exactly.
I know we're cutting into our question time, but my last question for you is, what is the gift that you have for the attendees? So please tell us about it.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate it. So I wanted to offer this complimentary visualization session. So a lot of what I do is either one-on-one work, is especially in that domain, is I do a lot of visualization work or deep work with clients. So visualization, for those that haven't experienced it, We can call it a guided meditation. There's different phraseology for it. What I actually do, what I'm offering for the audience that's listening, is email me, and you'll see the email on the screen, and you're going to get the guide, and simply mention in the subject line that you got this from the show, the Heart-Centered Planning, and then I'll offer a complimentary session. Basically, it's customized to what your needs are. Some people want to do it to boost their confidence. Some people are suffering from a headache or a migraine or backache. So it could be healing oriented, or it could be performance oriented, or it could be, you want to release this emotional wound that you had. And it basically is an opportunity to go in your consciousness. And there's different techniques that we employ and I teach to basically be able to then shift your energetic state, either in your mind, your heart, or your body. And that produces a lot of powerful results for people. So that's kind of a very potent freebie, complimentary for everybody that's out there listening.
Hey, well, thank you for that. That's wonderful. I hope everybody takes advantage of it, because it is an awesome, awesome thing for us to be doing. No question? Oh. All right. Well, looks like we don't have a ton of questions here. So
Cool.
I guess I have some questions for you then.
Yeah, definitely. Shoot away.
What advice would you give to someone who's just starting out practicing grounding or mindfulness?
Yeah, follow your natural rhythm. Follow your natural rhythm and start with basics. So you're going to hear a lot of different people say a lot of different things. You got to start with within. I mean, that's the theme, heart-centered planning. It's this notion of being heart-centered and letting your heart lead you. And start with the basics. Don't jump to advanced stuff right away. I mean, I don't think anybody in the audience is going to do that. Some people, they go and they download, let's say, Calm or Headspace. And if you're a type A like me, you think, oh, I don't need the basics. I need to jump right to the advanced level, like take me all the way, hack my performance, Hass, and, make me a superstar. And that's not exactly how I would recommend is the best way to start doing this. Take it one step at a time, start with basics, follow your own natural rhythm and inner instincts.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, and one thing I recommend to people if they've not meditated before is maybe download an app. Insight Timer is my favorite. There are thousands of meditations there. You can type in whatever you're dealing with and find something, and start with a couple of minutes, maybe like 5 minutes, and work your way up.
Correct.
It's definitely something that, again, I'm going to use this analogy about working a muscle, right? You don't just go jump into working out and like lift the heaviest weights or, do all the cardio. You have to work your way up to it. It's endurance. And so, yeah.
I love Insight Timer as well. For those that I know, because we're more advanced, some people need more hand holding, so to speak. Sorry to make it a little bit pejorative. I would use like Calm also is a good one, because it's guided and you're not on your own. And you don't have to look for anything, because if you don't know this industry at all and you're new to this mindfulness stuff. And then Headspace, I haven't used Headspace myself. I personally got started with Calm. My brother told me about Insight Timer, so I had both. Once I became more seasoned, then I jumped to Insight Timer, and Calm became more rudimentary for me, and it became something that I didn't really enjoy as much, because I wanted to get to more of the advanced, and then I developed my own. And so a lot of like the gratitude gathering circles is I'm teaching people really advanced meditation, some techniques that I've employed myself or downloaded. So yeah, I like Calm, Insight Timer. Yeah, go with an app. Don't do it on your own, or a teacher, guide, what have you.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I think at this point, the last question I'm going to have is, in today's stressful world and life, how do you make time to stay grounded and still balance everything else?
It's a good question. Well, it starts with what's a priority for you, right? For me, my priority and my definition of success shifted. And once I shifted that definition of success, and success started to look more like fulfillment, health, well-being, as well as monetary abundance, I started to make it a priority. It does require effort at first to make these conscious practices a part of your day-to-day. The dividends will be huge if you stick to it. So first you have to prioritize. Am I important for myself? Is self-care? This falls under the bracket of self-care, I would call it. And performance, self-care are kind of, for me, hand in hand. And so if you prioritize it, A, B, then you got to then carve out time. And you got to shift things around. For me, my whole life, I don't expect everybody in the audience to do this. Not everybody is on this path. My whole schedule changed. My whole way of being changed eventually to make mindfulness front and center, to the point where my business is now a conscious and mindful business like yours is. And I started to do this with my legal practice. Now I've employed it in everything else. So I would say really that is the key, is to make sure that that's employed in that way.
Awesome, awesome. Well, before I wrap this up, is there anything else you want to share with us or tell us?
Breath is very important, people. Make sure you're breathing through your nostrils, through your diaphragm. Inhale, expand out, exhale, expand in. And thank you for you and your team. I know I think I'll be back in a few months' time. So this is awesome that you're doing this. I commend you and I honor you. And for you all that are listening, I honor you too for tuning in for something. For some of you, this may be a novel new thing and you're like, what's this? That's even on, I commend you for that. If you've already been doing this and you're still, how can I refine my practice? For everybody that's listening, I truly salute you and I wish you the best. If I could be of support, let me know.
Thank you. Thank you. I so appreciate you. I hope that everybody found this session as valuable as I did. There are definitely things I learned as well. So it's always awesome to learn new things, right? So we are definitely looking forward to seeing everybody next time. And I'm looking forward to doing our webinar. I think we're doing, it's in October, yeah. So it's a few months away.
Which one's next month? Tell the audience which one's next month.
What's so everybody join us on August 4th, Creating an Abundance Mindset. And, this doesn't just have to do with money. I mean, there's so much that goes into the power of positivity and having an abundance mindset. So it's going to be an incredible one. In the meantime, definitely go to our website, theannuityconsultants.com, and go to the blog. The guides are there. And so if you want to get a jump start on any of this, the guides are available. They're not all there. I think we have 6 of them currently. So it also is a work in progress. So yeah, I thank you. I so appreciate you guys, and I look forward to seeing you all next time.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.